We will discuss now attributes of financial assets. And when we talk about attributes of financial assets, we talk about what are the major determinants to choose one business over another. Usually, we have a relationship between risk and expected return. I use here the abbreviation as ER. So, any rational investor is willing to take higher risk only if he or she will be compensated by higher expected return. So, if at any time you discover that you'll take higher risk, but you will not be compensated by higher expected return, you're not going to make this investment. Therefore, the first attribute of any financial asset will be risk. Let's assume that we have two investments. We have investment A and investment B. This is our risk level and this is our expected return. Let's assume that we have the same expected return, 10%. The risk level for investment A is 8%, for investment B is 6%. So if we have the same return, will we choose the investment with the highest risk or lowest risk? We'll choose the one with the lowest risk. Consequently, we will go with investment B. Our second attribute will be expected return. When we talk about expected return, let's assume another two companies. They have the same level of risk. Let's assume 8%, and the expected return is different. For B, it's 9%. For A, it's 10%. So in this example, we have the same level of risk. So if we have the same level of risk, we'll choose the investment with the highest expected return or the lowest. We'll go with the one with the highest expected return. Therefore, we'll go with investment A. Third one, we talk about liquidity. And liquidity is a very powerful terminology in finance. Liquidity has two characteristics. The first one is ease to convert to cash, which means you can sell it. Second characteristic is without making significant loss, which means you're not going to lose a lot. Let me give you an example. Let's assume that you have a bank deposit and you decided to travel tomorrow to France and you're gonna live there for 10 years. So what you're gonna do now with your deposit, you will go to the bank to withdraw your deposit. So let's apply the two conditions of liquidity. First condition is to convert to cash. Can you go to the bank and get your money back? Yes, you can. Consequently, you can convert it to cash easily. Second one, without making significant loss. Once you go to the bank to withdraw your deposit, you need to pay a little penalty. Therefore, will you make significant loss? No. Consequently, deposit is considered highly liquid or less liquid? Highly liquid. The same scenario. Let's assume that you have a car and you will travel tomorrow to France and you're going to live there for 10 years. You need to sell your car today before you travel. So let's talk about the two conditions of liquidity. Is to convert to cash. Would it be easy to sell your car? It would be challenging because you have to sell it within few hours. Second condition, without making significant loss. In order to be able to sell your car, you need to sell it at a discount. You need to lose part of its value because you don't have time to sell it for a good price. Consequently, you will make a significant loss. Therefore, car is highly liquid or less liquid? It is less liquid. So let's assume that I will give you two investments, A and B, and I'll assume that they have the same expected return, they have the same level of risk, but liquidity is different. For example, expected return is 10% for each one. The level of risk is 8% for each one of them. Liquidity is high for investment A, is low for investment B. So if I have the same expected return, because as we said, we make our decision mainly upon the relationship between risk and return. The other attributes, we take them into account, but our decision is based on risk and expected return. So if we have the same expected return, the same risk, I'll choose the one who's highly liquid or less liquid. We'll choose the one who's highly liquid. But please note that usually there is a relationship between liquidity, expected return, and the level of risk. If you would like to go with highly liquid financial instruments, it means that they have low level of risk, consequently they have low level of expected return. So if all your investment will be mainly based on liquidity criteria, it means that you will have a very low level of risk, consequently your expected return will be low. Our fourth attribute will be maturity. When we talk about maturity, we talk about the timing of cash flows. So what do I mean by timing of cash flows? It means that when will we get our money back? You make an investment. When would you get your money back? So let's assume that we have two investments, A and B. We have the same expected return. We have the same level of risk, but maturity will be different. So let's assume that expected return is 10% for each investment. Risk is 8% for each investment. So this number is the same as this part. But maturity is higher for investment A and shorter in investment B. For example, the maturity in A, 5 years. The maturity in B is 3 years. So it's better that you get your money after a short period of time or after a long period of time. For sure, the shorter the better. Why? Because if you will get your money after 3 years compared to 5 years, you have many advantages. Number one, you could take this money and reinvest and generate higher return. Second one, you are afraid that your investment might go bankrupt. Consequently, you're going to lose your money. That's why it's better to get your money as soon as possible. Third one, time value of money. We know that money loses its value over time. Consequently, it's better that you get your money as soon as possible because of inflation. Therefore, based on this one, we'll choose which investment? We'll choose investment B with a shorter maturity. But please note that there is a relationship between maturity, expected return, and risk. If all the time you would like to get a shorter maturity, for example, you'd like to get your money back within few months or few years, this means that your level of risk is low. Consequently, your expected return will be low as well. If you would like to generate a higher expected return, this means that you need to take extra risk. If you are going to take extra risk, it means that the maturity should be longer. For example, you need to invest for 5 years, 10 years, or even longer. Lastly, please note that all these attributes differs from one industry to another.